What's up, everyone? I'm Will here with Young Guns, and I'm here with Caleb of the Troy Tripolitan. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no
Really
problem. Thanks for
appreciate it.
having me.
So this has been just a awesome season for Troy, winning the Sun Belt and, and just thrashing Coastal 45-26 in the championship game. And it started off with, they're playing ranked Ole Miss team in Oxford, won that, then won their cupcake in Alabama and then lost a heartbreaker to App State. So just tell me like what the team's gone through this year, through following that tough loss to App State, and how they just rolled through the rest of the schedule.
Yeah, so that really seemed like a turning point for the team because, at that point it's a new head coach. This is John Summerall's first year as head coach. And even though this is like mostly the same roster that had won only 5 games in the past 3 seasons, um, it really seemed like a turning point in that heartbreak, even though it was a sad way to lose the game. I feel like they played really well in that game, and it was just a test of their character. And from that point on, it seemed like even if the team hasn't played so well, they're not wanting to lose again. So
Mm-hmm. So what did John Summerall bring to the team that Chip Lindsey didn't? Like, how did he turn it around so much from 5 wins to 10 wins plus the conference championship to make it 11?
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is really just that like character and discipline and just being more strict as far as that. And obviously, like the play calling has been immensely better and just things like that. And then you also have players such as Kamani Vidal, our running back, who's gotten more playing time this year as a sophomore and has really had some really good games. I think he has over 1,000 rushing yards on the season. So,
Mm-hmm. So, like, what kind of running back is he? Is he like a really fast guy, or is he a guy that just like knocks him down, or is
I
just like
mean,
a little bit
he's
both?
pretty versatile, I would say, kind of all around. There are moments when he'll just go and like break some guy's ankles, but he can also just run through people at times, and especially during the games when he's had 2 games against ULM and Arkansas State, I believe that he had over 200 yards in each of those games. And you could tell, especially towards the end when Troy had the lead and they were just trying to hang on, he would just run through guys. And there's plays when he's gotten hit at the line of scrimmage, it gets like 5 yards after contact. So that's been really big.
Mm-hmm. And like, can you tell me a little bit about Gunnar Watson, the quarterback? Had only 12 completions, but 318 yards. So, just tell me like, is it just like how good is his deep passing? Has he improved this year from last year?
So he has definitely improved from last year. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Gunnar Watson, but he's played really well at some points, especially during the Coastal game. That was by far his best game of the season. But there's been times this season where he's maybe struggled a little bit with decision making or deep passing. But
Mm-hmm.
Troy's wide receiver group really helps him out, especially in the Coastal game. Like if you didn't
Mm-hmm.
watch, there's quite a few plays where even if he doesn't throw it that deep, he'll just throw like a quick slant or something, and one of our receivers will take it 50 yards to the house or whatever. So
Mm-hmm. So he's definitely gotten a bit better though this year than last year with decision making.
yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for the defense, who are the guys to look out for in the defense? Who do you think's really the can make a difference? Who helps stop Coastal and slow them down?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really talk about Troy without talking about Carlton Marshall,
Mm-hmm.
walk-on guy from Mobile, and he's a 4-time All-American after being named an All-American this week. One of the top linebackers in the nation, and he's really just taken over games this season. Against Marshall, he had like 17, 18 tackles.
Mm-hmm.
And against Army, they run the triple option, really good run game. He had 22 tackles that game and was a really big key in stopping that offense. So he's kind of the top guy. But then
Mm-hmm.
I would say Troy's front seven is just one of the top in the nation. Like we have 5 guys with more than 4 sacks on the season. There's TJ Jackson on the defensive line. He's really a game breaker. There have been times this season when he really just takes over a game, rushing the quarterback and stopping the run game. Javon Solomon, he's also really good, and Richard Jubinar. So all those guys, and there's even more that I could name on the defensive line and the linebackers. So
Mm-hmm. And talk about like storming the field after winning the championship. Like, how was that? Like, was it just awesome to just bond with the players in the field?
yeah, it was really amazing. I mean, for that game, I had a press pass, so like I was allowed on the field regardless. But I had heard during the game they announced like, oh yeah, students can go onto the field and everything, and it was crazy, man. Like after we won the game, you just look over and people are tearing down the goalpost, and
Mhm.
it was pretty crazy, but it was a really cool moment for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, how are the students like? Are they excited for the bowl game to play another conference champion? Did they want to play a power?
Yeah,
What
I
was
think
the vibe
I
going
think
on?
they're definitely pretty excited. So, I'm not sure how many people go to the game. It's like, with bowl games, it can be tough
Yeah.
sometimes around the holidays. And being in Alabama, sometimes I feel like Troy is overshadowed by Power
Mhm.
Five programs such as Auburn and Alabama. So, especially during the regular season, if we're playing on the same day as one of those teams, it can get pretty tough in the student section sometimes. But yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I think you guys could beat Auburn. I don't know, like,
yeah, I
do
think
you
this
guys
year
like
for
think you
sure.
could beat Auburn with Brian Harsin and all their
Yeah.
failures?
I mean, to be honest, I think I would like another shot at Ole Miss, even though we lost that game. I feel like our offense has definitely improved since that game. That was one of the main reasons we lost that game because we
Mhm.
held Ole Miss to 28 points, which is
Yeah,
probably one of their lower scoring games of the season. So,
yeah. Mhm. So talk talking about the Sun Belt, like, did you guys like all the tension Sun Belt was getting at the beginning of the year with all the upsets and you guys coming out on top? Does this make it a bit more sweeter to win the Sun Belt in a year which like Marshall beat Notre Dame and then
yeah, for sure.
And JMU all going doing really well?
Yeah, it's a really exciting conference, and it's nicknamed the Fun Belt for a reason. Like
Mhm.
it's just one
App
of the
State
most
over A&M,
crazy
the other big
conferences.
one.
Yeah, even with like those upsets, like you're talking about App State and Marshall, like they didn't even finish top in their divisions. So it's
Yeah.
like it's pretty crazy because you'll have a team go and beat a top 25 team, and then the next week go and lose. And
Mhm.
although Troy couldn't pull off the upstate after App State beat Texas A&M, it was a close game, and
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at UTSA, do you feel like there's a lot of do you think you guys are better than them in a lot of ways, or is there anything that you're scared about just looking at UTSA? Have you looked at them much?
Yeah, I mean, looking at their schedule, it feels like they have a pretty similar strength of schedule to us, and I think it's pretty comparable teams. Like looking at their stat sheet, there's nothing necessarily that like pops out to me. I feel like they're a pretty balanced team.
Mhm.
Whereas Troy, it's like you can kind of see as like yards per game and stuff, we're pretty skewed towards the defensive side for the most part. But UTSA seems like a really balanced team. That's probably why they've done so well in a lot of ways. So,
The one thing that sticks out to me is that you guys both played Army, but their game against Army
mhm.
was a 41-38 shootout, and the one that you guys played was 10-9. So I think that'll be
Yeah,
definitely shows how good their offense is and how good your defense is. So
yeah,
excited to see those two clash. But if your D line's really good, like you say it is, I think that's really big for you guys if you can get to their quarterback and take
yeah,
him down.
definitely. Our secondary as well has some good players. Reddy Stewart is really good at corner, and then we have a safety, Craig Slocum, who's really good as well. So we definitely have some playmakers at any stage of the defense.
Hmm. Yeah. So the line's Troy by 1. So definitely should be a fun game. I definitely like
Yeah.
it how like the top group of 5 teams get their own day. Like it's just, I mean, the Bahamas Bowl is between 2 6 and 6 teams, but this one's
Hmm.
it's on a Friday. It's prime time. Just about two of the best group of 5 teams going at it. So
Yeah, I
definitely
think it was a really
excited.
good bowl matchup for sure. It's cool to see like a conference champions going up against each other
Hmm.
and like top group of 5 teams. There's part of me that wants to play like a Power Five team or something like that because I think
Hmm.
that would be cool. And obviously, like I wanted Troy to get the Cotton Bowl because that would have been pretty amazing. But
Hmm.
Tulane deserves it. They've had a great season. They beat
Yeah.
Kansas State and all that. So
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Caleb. Do you have any social media you want to promote or the Tripolitan?
yeah, my Twitter is at cthomas6204. So yeah,
Thomas 624
6204.
6204. There we go. So follow Caleb on Twitter. I'm sure he's a great follow. I'm sure you can, if you have any guys have any more questions about Troy, you can send it to him over there. And thanks so much for coming on, man. I know you're busy
Yeah,
with
thank you for
finals. I'm
having
busy
me.
with finals too, but it's just fun talking Troy. And I'm gonna try to bring on the UTSA guys on soon, so we can have both
Mhm.
perspectives on it, and it should be a great game.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Young Guns. I'm Will, along with Jeffrey, and we have guest Luke Lawhorn, who's an expert on UTSA and writes for the student newspaper. Thanks for coming on, Luke.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I know we had a little
Okay.
difficulties last couple of days due to traveling and everything, but glad we can make this happen.
Yeah. So let's talk about the season that you guys had. A couple bumps in the road against Houston and Texas, but you guys just rolled after that.
Yeah, started the season 1-2, which is some people kind of expected it, but for the team, it was kind of a gut punch. I mean, last season went on the historic run, went 11-0, finished 12-2 after the season, but expected to kind of take that next step this year, even though we had a much tougher schedule and losing that first game against Houston, triple overtime, and then going to Texas and losing in Austin to a pretty, good team and obviously has much more natural talent on the roster, but have finished the season on a 10-game win streak and won Conference USA for back-to-back seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just crazy the job that Jeff Traylor has done for UTSA. Like most people probably haven't heard of UTSA before he came along, but got the Roadrunners to a bowl game his first year, and then of course last year 12-2, and then this year 11-2. Just what's he done for the school and also the whole San Antonio area?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, Jeff Traylor coached in high school for nearly 3 decades. Did a lot of good things for the state, won 3 different state championships. And UTSA has only been a program for about 10 years. I think 2012 is their first season. And I mean, no one's really heard of UTSA. I didn't, even in high school and everything. But he came in 2020, COVID year, not really many expectations, but he made UTSA, have an identity with the triangle of toughness and how it just travels. And obviously went 7-5 his first year, went to a bowl game, and has only lost 4 games since the 2020 season, 2 last season, 2 this season, and all over town, got the "Let's Go 2-0" signs all over town. It's lit up, orange and blue around the Riverwalk, and everyone is packing that, historic Alamo Dome. So it's done nothing but, great things for the city of San Antonio.
Mm-hmm. Do you think just being in such a historic stadium, the Alamo Dome, kind of helped Jeff Traylor recruit as well as his high school experience and connections with the schools and coaches?
I do think the dome is helpful. I mean, I hear every week kids are saying, or players on other teams are like, the dome, adds an intensity to the stadium. You can hear all the fans in close space. And going to other stadiums in Conference USA, like to Rice and North Texas and Denton and UAB and Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah, those are great schools. I'm not down on them, but their stadiums, lack, compared to the Alamo Dome. And I think, yeah, I think it's an advantage, but not much of one. The students show up and everything, but Coach Traylor, especially this season, is just head and shoulders better than everybody else in Conference USA, winning by double figures in the conference championship game, blowing everybody out. I do think it comes from that experience he gained coaching in high school all those years, and Frank Harris and a bunch of our athletes who are from San Antonio, homegrown, keep them in San Antonio, and obviously working around the Conference USA League.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And let's talk about the spread offense. And if you don't know him, you should know him. Your quarterback, Frank Harris. Just talk about like what he does, how he's so good at moving the ball down the field.
Frank Harris is great from Church, Texas, so right there in San Antonio. I think what makes him great is his experience, and he's already coming back for a sixth and seventh year at UTSA. So he just knows the offense, knows everybody on the field, and with that experience can win these one possession games in overtime, like we did in Week 2 against Army, what we did last year against Western Kentucky in the championship game. He can just will his way and does it, in tremendous fashion. He's number 6 in the whole entire nation in passing yards, tied for 9th in passing touchdowns, 11th in passing yards per game. So he does it every game, week in and week out, with all our great receivers who at the time in Conference USA were 1, 2, and 3 in receiving yards and touchdowns in the conference. So he makes everybody else better, great leader, and just super fun to watch.
I will have to say, just as a question about Frank Harris, to me, I would say that he deserved a little bit of Heisman love, even though he plays at a really small school. His stats are fantastic. I think Frank Harris should have had at least, some consideration, some votes. Do you think that he, even though being at a small school at like UTSA, did he deserve to have some Heisman votes or whatever?
I mean, yeah, definitely deserves some recognition. I obviously think Caleb Williams, won it fair and square. And of course, CJ Stroud, Max Duggan, those guys are more talented. But for Frank Harris, what he does at UTSA, and if you watch, he literally wins the games for UTSA. He was the reason it came to third overtime after UTSA was dead in the water, first game against Houston. He's the reason they won week 2 in Army and West Point. He's the reason why we were leading at halftime against Texas and Austin, and just winning these one possession games against Western Kentucky and North Texas beginning of the year. He makes those final plays. The last possession against North Texas, drove down the field with a minute and a half to go, won the game with the passing touchdown, was like 19 yards away. He just makes things happen. He's fearless. He believes in the team. And I think that right there should get you Heisman, looks. And I'm sure if he continues this same, stats season and the AAC conference, much better conference, much more known conference next season, he'll undoubtedly, make a trip to New York possibly.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. I just look what he's done, and I definitely, he deserved a little bit of consideration. But you're right, being in a bigger conference next year might make a difference if he does the same thing or even does better for sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And what about the defensive player of the year from Conference USA, Rashad Wisdom, senior safety? What do you think about him and what he's done to help shore up the defense for the Roadrunners?
Well, Rashad Wisdom, he's been great. Obviously went down with an injury a couple weeks ago and is so not playing in the game, but will come back next season. Him and Frank Harris, both number 0, both represent a lot to our team. Since he's a veteran, going to be a 5th or 6th year next year, going to, keep the triangle toughness going, heading to the new conference. We'll have Coach Traylor by then 4 years, and we'll definitely, survey the land and keep everybody intact for the next recruiting class, since everybody else will be leaving, but heading into a new conference with a veteran player on not only the offensive side but defensive side. We'll keep that tone going. Hopefully, can keep the same level of competition in the new conference.
So Will Stein, of course, this was only his first season in San Antonio, but he is leaving to Oregon. What do you think he brought to the offense, and do you think that the team's going to miss his play calling at all, or do you think everything should run pretty smoothly in the bowl game?
I do think that, of course, they will miss Will Stein. He's done great. 1 year at UTSA, but can already, see the signs of the impact he's had on the country. Like I said, early in the season, Zachary Franklin, DeCorian, and Joshua Cephas, they were 1, 2, and 3 in Conference USA, passing touchdowns, passing yards. And that's because, how spread out was that the team, the wide receivers block for each other, teammates are getting open. The ball is spread out much more. And so it's not just one dominant receiver and then everybody else. No, it's 1, 2, 3. And as soon as DeCorian Clark went down 4 or 5 weeks ago, they haven't missed a beat. They're still blowing teams out. Zachary Franklin and Joshua Cephas stepped up. Kavorian Barnes in the backfield was catching passes and running for 150 yards. So yeah, he's obviously made them a more modern offense, such like as a USC or an Ohio State. Just more upbeat. Obviously, Oregon got a great guy. They're in that level of competition now, so he's going to be a great addition there. Undoubtedly made UTSA better in this one season. But I do think that, of course, since Frank Harris is going to be back and all those wide receivers, the same running back, I think that because they were also co-offensive coordinators. So, they're going to keep a lot of things, and happy for Will Stein. But I do expect UTSA to maybe it's a step back, but they'll take 2 steps forward by week 2 or 3.
And so, how are the students feeling about this game? Are they ready? Are they ready to get over that hump? Is it a lot of excitement going on?
Yeah, it is. And UTSA's, only one decade of history. They've grown a lot. They made their first bowl game in 2016, which was tied for the fastest for a new program to reach a bowl game already. I believe they were 7-5, maybe 6-6 that season, lost. And in these first two seasons with Jeff Traylor, we lost. So far as a program, we're 0-3 in bowl games. And I know the fans are excited. I've seen all over Twitter and social media. Fans are landing in Orlando today, already getting there. Plans to be packed. I mean, we were first in Conference USA in student attendance. So of course we're planning to take that to Orlando. And the city's just excited. We're very eager to get that first bowl victory, and we'll be 1-3. But with Jeff Traylor, we're soon to get over that 500 bowl game winning percentage.
I think it's really cool how you talk about how they've only been a program for a decade, and it just how quickly they've become a really solid program and a household name at the Group of Five level. It's really cool, and it goes to show that with the right people, you can really build something up pretty quickly. But I will say, as a question about both teams, Troy and UTSA, Troy's defense is their strength. UTSA's offense is their strength. How do you see that matching up in this bowl game?
Well, first, I want to hit your first point of just how big UTSA has gotten. And actually, a fun story last year when UTSA was getting ranked and, of course, starting the AP poll, then the coaches poll, then they went in the playoff poll. I took a trip to Disney World in Orlando, and I wore my UTSA shirt, and I was getting go runners, UTSA all day long. And I was like, wow, I'm not even in Texas, and people are starting to notice it. So it truly is gravitating. People here in Hawaii know them. People all over Texas know them. Used to be just A&M, maybe Baylor, maybe. But now it's TCU and UTSA. So everyone's getting known. It's great. As your second question or your main question about the strengths of the two teams, I think I've seen Troy's defense. They are really good. And UTSA's defense is going to have to hold their end of the bargain to, answer with our offense, who's going to do their job. And I think that they'll score at least over 35 points. They just get it done every game except for the Texas game. But the defense has been on a roll lately too. I mean, just blowing out North Texas 48-27 and then beating Rice 41-7. They're getting in their groove at the end of the season. Clifford Chapman, he's had 4 straight games of interceptions or 3 games. So he's getting in the role. Corey Mayfield Jr., he's getting his interceptions. He had 3 interceptions in a row early in the season. So they're clicking at the right time, blowing teams out, matching the offense, but they're definitely going to have to hold their end of the bargain. As if it goes to just Troy's defense versus UTSA's offense, I would give UTSA, that nod in what could be a great game.
Yeah, the one thing that the Troy guy was worried about was interceptions. That's really been the only big problem with Troy this year has been the quarterback throwing interceptions, although they do run the ball very well.
Right. Yeah. We're okay at stopping the run. I mean, obviously when we played Texas, Bijan Robinson ran all over us. He's the reason we lost that game. And we've gotten in close games, like just 2 weeks ago against UTEP when we were down 24-0, but Frank Harris willed our way back. But Corey Mayfield Jr., Clifford Chapman, just like the Troy guy said, I mean, if you just watch the UTSA game, one of those guys are going to have an interception. So they force turnovers with the triangle of toughness, which carries over. And if it does carry over, then UTSA will win that game.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks so much, Luke. We got a ton of great information from you, man. Do you want to drop your social media at all?
Yeah. So the Twitter we use is @Paisano_sports. Paisano is this independent student newspaper at UTSA that, we cover the games with. So with that Twitter handle, you'll be able to follow the game, follow analysis from UTSA football. That's about it. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to add it in here. We got it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, man. And good luck in the game. It should be a good one.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. Go Runners.
All right.